Today, I write another page of Jesus' diary, my diary. They saw me weep, and they thought it was only for him. For the friend lying behind a sealed stone. For the one whose name they all whispered in sorrow. But what they didn't see was the weight behind my tears. It wasn't just Lazarus I mourned. It was everything that moment carried. Every question no one dared to ask. Every doubt hiding behind faith-filled words. Every heart that stood near me, but still didn't understand me. The silence of heaven didn't ache as much as the silence of those I loved. Those who still wondered if I'd come too late. And in that moment, the tears came not from helplessness, but from heartbreak. Because even after miracles, even after walking with me, even after hearing the promise, they still looked at the tomb and saw death. Not me, not life. If this page trembles something deep inside you, leave your like as a whisper. A way of saying, I see you now, and I believe even when it still hurts. The road to Bethany was quiet, but not in peace. The kind of quiet that holds its breath before the storm of grief. Dust rose with each step I took, clinging to the hems of my robe like memories that wouldn't let go. The sun, though bright, felt distant, like it too was morning. Olive trees stood motionless, their branches heavy, not with fruit, but with sorrow. Each breeze that passed by seemed to ask the same question. Why didn't you come sooner? When I arrived, the air was thick with mourning. Not just the sound of weeping, but the kind that settles in people's eyes, the kind that chokes the voice and bends a spine. Faces I loved were carved with pain, and behind every tear was a silent verdict. I had failed them. I had waited too long. I had let death win. Martha met me first, her words brave but broken. If you had been here, she said, and though her voice held hope, it also carried the weight of what she'd seen. Her brother wrapped in grave clothes, her sister collapsed in tears. And Mary, when she came to me, she fell at my feet, the same feet that had walked on water, now covered in dust and the delay of grief. She didn't say much, she didn't need to. Her silence thundered louder than any accusation. Her pain spoke for the crowd, and I stood there, not as a stranger to pain, but as its companion, surrounded by people I loved, all of them carrying loss, all of them looking at me as if I had come too late, as if the one who was life had forgotten to show up in time. They didn't know yet that resurrection stood among them. But I knew, and even still I wept, because sometimes what hurts isn't the death itself, it's standing in front of those who love you and realizing they still don't fully trust that love. She stood at the edge of the crowd, wrapped in a shawl too thin for the wind that moved through Bethany. Her eyes had cried all they could, yet still they glistened. She didn't accuse or plead. She just looked at me, and in that look I saw myself. Mary, the worshiper who once anointed my feet with perfume, now shattered before me. Not because I couldn't raise the dead, but because I hadn't come in time. And in her silence, I felt something deeper than doubt, disappointment. Not in who I was, but in when I came. This wasn't just about Lazarus. It was about the hidden ache when love doesn't arrive how we hoped. Her pain didn't scream, it lingered, quiet, but louder than words. And I felt it. A tomb wasn't only sealed over Lazarus. Another had begun forming in Mary's heart, one built of shaken trust. And I didn't break it with answers. I broke it with presence, with tears. I didn't cry just for the dead. I cried for the living, those whose faith trembles behind grieving eyes. And that broke me more than death itself. I stepped closer to the tomb. The stone stood between us, between what was and what could be. Before I could speak life into Lazarus, I had to walk through my own sorrow. It wasn't death that broke me. It was what I saw in their silence. A silence that whispered, maybe he doesn't care like we thought. And that ache echoed louder than grief. Mary's eyes didn't ask for resurrection. They asked if I still loved them, if my delay meant abandonment. And in that moment, I felt something deeper than death itself. The pain of being doubted by those you love, just because you didn't arrive when they expected. I wept, not for the tomb, but for the fracture in their faith, for the loneliness of standing in front of them, unseen. I had told them who I was, shown them, and still They questioned not my power, but my presence. So I didn't cry for performance. I cried as surrender, as love choosing to remain even when it hurts. And in that surrender, something shifted. Death held its breath. Heaven leaned close. And I chose to love again. If something inside you whispered, "I felt that too," then you're not alone. If this page of my diary found you in your own tomb of disappointment, uncertainty, or silence, subscribe. There are still more pages coming. Some soaked in tears, others lit with hope, but all written with love. And on that day, when I stood before the stone, with the taste of tears still fresh upon my lips, I understood something I had never spoken, not even to the stars. The greatest pain is not death itself. It is to love deeply and not be fully trusted in return. I had told them, "I am the resurrection." I had promised, "This will not end in death." But grief has a way of erasing promises from memory. Sorrow dims what once burned bright. And when I looked into their eyes, I didn't see anger. I saw disappointment, not in what I could do, but in when I chose to do it. And that pierced deeper than any nail ever would. That day, I didn't just raise Lazarus. I carried the weight of unspoken doubt. I held the fragile remains of faith shattered by loss. And I learned that sometimes the miracle people wait for is not the one they truly need. What they long for, more than resurrection, is reassurance. Not that I can restore, but that I still remain when everything else falls. And so I stood, not to perform, but to prove in silence that my love does not vanish in delay. It does not retreat in grief. It does not tremble before the grave. It walks into it. That day taught me that love is not proven in what we fix, but in what we stay to feel. In every tear I shed, I wasn't weakening. I was revealing the strength of a heart that refuses to give up, even when misunderstood. That was the true miracle. Not just that Lazarus came out, but that I stayed long enough to love them through what they didn't yet understand. I left that place not with dry eyes, but with a soul that had absorbed every tear around me. I didn't just weep for Lazarus. I wept for the broken trust, for the silence that fell heavier than the stone that sealed his tomb, for the love that still doubted, even after seeing the blind see, the lame walk, the storms bow. I walked away holding something far greater than a miracle. I carried the weight of hearts too wounded to believe again. But I didn't come only to bring the dead back to life. I came to resurrect what pain had buried. Faith, hope, trust, love. And that's what hurt me most. Not the loss of my friend, but the moment I realized how many who walked beside me still didn't fully know my heart. Even now, I remember that moment not as a failure, but as a reminder of why I stayed. Why I keep walking, healing, forgiving. Because there will always be those standing at tombs of dreams, of faith, of identity, waiting for someone to call forth life again. And sometimes all they need is to be reminded that I still weep. I still feel. I still remain. So I write this page not to revisit sorrow, but to remind you, your pain has never gone unnoticed. Your silence has never echoed unanswered. Your grave has never been outside the reach of my voice. Now, let me ask you something. What have you buried, thinking I was too late? What pain have you silenced, believing I wouldn't feel it too? What trust have you withheld, afraid I wouldn't stay? If this page trembled within your heart, whisper your answer, not with noise, but with truth. Because I didn't move the stone just for Lazarus. I moved it to show you love never abandons. I said nothing. I simply let that moment become a word. In my Jesus diary, if this page of my Jesus diary touched something sacred inside you, don't let it stay silent. Share this moment. Maybe someone you love is standing at the door of their own tomb, thinking no one still weeps for them. Let this video be the voice that calls them out. And if your heart is ready to keep walking with me, through pain, through resurrection, through every unspoken ache, the next page is already waiting. And the video on your screen right now, it's not showing up by accident. Watch it. It might carry the answer heaven's been whispering to you all along.